Who doesn't love a good loop? Nobody, that's right. And the for statement is the go-to guy of the loop world. JavaScript for statements remind me a lot of the Java syntax for a for statement. The for statement consists of three parts after the for keyword. There's the loop initializer, which is run before the for statement. A condition, which is checked every time that the for statement is going to start a new iteration. And if the value is true, then the block of the for statement is executed again. If it's false, then the for statement is finished. And the incrementer, which is a statement that is run on every iteration. Let's take a look at some example for statements. Just a very basic example this time. I have a simple for statement that initializes a new variable I to the value 1. The condition is that I has to be less than or equal to 10, and every time around the loop we're going to increment I by 1. The body of the for statement simply outputs the value of the variable I. What this for loop is going to do is it's going to execute once for each value of I from 1 to 10. And there we see the output 1 to 10. The for statement is the Swiss Army knife of looping in JavaScript. It's a generic way to iterate. There is also a for in statement, which has a much more specialized job, and that is to iterate over the property keys of an object. It's similar to C#'s for each, except that instead of iterating over a collection, it can only iterate over the properties of an object. This is best explained by an example. I've declared a very simple object here called Tom. It has two properties, name, which has the value Thomas, which is a string, and age, which is an integer with the value 70. Here I'm using the for in statement to iterate over the property keys of the Tom object. Each time through this loop, my variable property key will be assigned the next property key from the Tom object. So the first time through the loop, the value of property key will be name, and the second time through the loop, the value of the property key will be age. And at the moment I'm just writing the property key out. If I run that, we get name and age as anticipated. Once I have the property keys for the object, I can use this special syntax to access the value of the property having that name. If I run that now, I should see the property keys as well as their values. So here's my first property key, name, and its value Thomas. The second property key, age, and its value 70. We're not done talking about loops. JavaScript has another looping construct, the while statement. The while statement is a pre-tested loop, which means that the conditional expression is evaluated prior to executing the body of the loop. So in the example that we see here, the expression is keep going. Now, if that value is false, the body of the loop will never be executed. If it's true, the body of the loop will be executed, and then the test will be applied again. When using these loop statements, it's important to make sure that the looping condition will eventually become false. If keep going never becomes false, then we have an infinite loop. The alternative to while is the do while loop, which is a post-tested loop. This means that the expression is evaluated after the loop body has already been executed. So in my example here, regardless of the value of keep going, the body of the loop will be executed at least once, and then the expression is tested. Once again, we want to make sure that the loop condition will eventually become false to prevent an infinite loop. Let's take a look at some examples. I'm setting a variable called keep going to true and then using it in a while loop. Because while loop is a pre-tested loop, if keep going were not true, then the whole loop would just be skipped. But in this case, keep going is true, so we expect control will enter the loop body, it's going to output while loop, then it sets the value of keep going to false. So When the expression is evaluated again, keep going will be false, so control will exit out of the while loop. In the case of the do loop, it's post-tested, so the body of the loop is going to execute at least once. We'll see this output, do while loop. Then the expression is evaluated. Because it was previously set to false, it's going to fail that test and the body of the loop won't be executed again. Let's run that just to check, and we get the output that we're expecting. The while loop and then do while loop.